Hey folks, Toby Mathis here. Big news out of the IRS. Paper refund checks are being phased out for individual taxpayers starting September 30th, 2025. I'll break down what's changing, why it's happening, who's affected, and what to do right now, and how the tax community is reacting, all my brethren. So stay to the end for practical steps so you don't miss a refund or a payment deadline. First, the headline. The IRS announced they'll begin phasing out paper refund checks for individual taxpayers, citing an executive order by Trump that pushes the federal government towards all electronic payments to the extent permitted by law. There's our guardrail, right? Guidance for 2025 returns will be issued before the 2026 filing season. In other words, we're not filing 2025 until next year. That's probably when it's coming out, but we'll see. Why is this happening? 3 reasons. Number one, this is a big one. Paper checks are almost 16 times more likely to be lost, stolen, altered, or delayed than electronic payments. Number 2, speed. Direct deposit refunds can arrive in under 21 days when you e-file with no issues. Mailed checks, I don't know if you've ever had to sit around and wait for them, but they could take 6 weeks or even longer. 3, electronic payments are cheaper. Cost is an issue and more efficient for the government to process. And it's something like, I think it was like 50 cents per check is what it costs for the government to send that out versus 13 cents per electronic payment, and that's processing in and out. And this isn't just the IRS acting alone, right? The policy traces back to the executive order, I think it was 14247 or something like that, signed on March 25th of 2025 by President Trump, which directs agencies to modernize payments, both distributions and incoming payments, by moving to electronic methods. Treasury has said the government will stop issuing paper checks for most federal payments by September 30th, 2025, with limited exceptions permitted by law. So if you're after that point, get ready, right? This may affect you. Most of you already get refunds by direct deposit. In 2025, during this last tax filing season, the IRS issued about 93.5 million individual refunds, and more than 90% were by direct deposit. If you really want to get stacked, get geeky, I think about 7% came by mail. So it's like 93%, right? This is crazy. This shift mainly impacts that the little bit of slice of the taxpayers who still rely on paper. Believe me, my mom is one of them. I'll talk about that. What changes for you? Well, filings stay the same. You keep filing as you normally do. E-file if you can. But there's refund delivery changes. Going forward, your refund will be paid electronically, most likely or typically via direct deposit or other secure digital method. If you don't have a bank account, what do? Well, the IRS and Treasury have flagged alternatives, like they do prepaid debit cards, digital wallets, and there may be limited exceptions where there's a hardship if they can't do by checks. More specifics will arrive when we get formal guidance. We're going to get this before the 2026 tax season. So let's give this thing some context. The Treasury's announcement emphasizes the broader government-wide move. Social Security, veterans benefits, and other federal payments are part of the transition, with exceptions, again, for certain hardships. If that's you or a family member, you'll want to review the Treasury's resources and enrollment options if you have that hardship. And again, we'll get more guidance. This move generated fast commentary across my world, which is all the professionals. The AICPAs, which is the CPA's national body, has been prepping members for this executive order since the summer, posting resources on electronic payments and reminders that paying taxes by paper check is also slated to go electronic as soon as practical, right? Subject to the law. Expect more practitioner guidance as the IRS gives out its guidance. In fact, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I'll let you know as soon as we hear something. The Taxpayer Advocate Service asked for public feedback on the transition, especially around taxpayer service and access. They were signaling close oversight on how the vulnerable and unbanked taxpayers will be treated, right? They wanted to get feedback, and they did. There are concerns, but everybody seems full steam ahead, right? So if you're an unbanked individual, you're probably going to have to go that debit card route, right? Tax law firms and CPA practices nationwide are advising clients to add bank info to any returns filed after September 30th to avoid delays and to set up EFT for balances due, extensions, and estimates. If you've been mailing checks, if that's how you've always paid your taxes, plan to switch. At our firm, it's 90% plus electronic. In fact, I don't remember the last time I actually saw a check go out. Consumer and finance outlets are echoing benefits. Hey, this is faster, there's less fraud, but they're also warning about scam risks during the switch because this is going all electronic. And especially if we have these limited hardship exceptions, these are the elderly folks, people without banking resources, they may be targeted. And that's kind of a worry. The mainstream press has been flagging concerns for millions who still rely on paper. If they often do, they just want to be counter to anything this government does. Usually they're waving this. What about people with seniors or older folks? They couldn't possibly do electronic payments, or people with disabilities. How about immigrants or the unbanked? And they're urging targeted outreach because robust alternatives like the direct express card could fill that need. So they're really focusing on that. What do I think? Well, I like anything that gets legitimate refunds to taxpayers faster and cuts down on check washing and mail theft. That is a very real thing that hits people all the time. But we need a workable safety net for folks who don't have an easy banking access or who are in that exception category. So my mom is a great example. She's in her 80s. She likes to go to the bank to move money from her savings into her checking, and she uses a checkbook. She hates doing electronic payments. She just doesn't do it, nor would I believe she even know how. So if you have a mom like that, this is where we're going to have to be like, okay, let me help you do that. And remember that this policy shift says to the extent permitted by law. And there are going to be limited exceptions. Now the IRS and Treasury need to execute those promises clearly and humanely, and they need to show us what we're able to do and how they're going to do the workaround for people who are unbanked or who still, like, you're not going to teach some of these old dogs new tricks, right? And we could say, oh, it's so easy, da, da, da. For some people, they don't even use cell phones related to one. Now, what to do right now? So I'm going to say there's three things, right? Number one, add your banking details to your return. If you're filing an extended, let's say 2024 return, there's still time, right, where I'm standing right now, especially after September 30th when this thing kicks in, or you typically file early every year, make sure that your routing number and account numbers are accurate, right? This is something that you check and double check to make sure, because once they have it, it's going into those numbers. For business owners and landlords, confirm the correct account is on file for potential refunds and any future credits. Number two, set up electronic payment methods. If you've been mailing checks for estimates, balances due, or extension payments, start using IRS Direct Pay, the EFTPS, or other electronic method your advisor recommends. Expect mailed checks to be phased out and plan accordingly. And by the way, here's a primer on EFTPS, the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. It's the U.S. Treasury's free, secure portal for paying federal taxes online. Or you can even call in, do it on phone. Let me make it as a real phone, right? Individuals, businesses, payroll services, nonprofits use it for estimates, balances due, withholding deposits, payroll, excise deposits, corporate taxes, pretty much every federal tax time. If you've done payroll, chances are you're forced to do this, right? You have to be enrolled. So here's how it works. I'll just do a quick tour of it. You enroll at EFTPS.gov. EFTPS.gov. Use your social security number or EIN and your bank routing and account number. You'll set up login credentials, and businesses can even have other users like a bookkeeper, your CPA. And by the way, your bean counter should not be your check writer, so just make sure that if you're doing this, that you're not giving away the farm. That's usually how embezzlement occurs. But you could still have somebody have the ability to go in and do these payments as long as somebody else is checking to make sure that it's proper. Then add a payment, like choose The tax form could be your 1040 ES, 1040 balance due, 941, 940, the 1120 for the corp, 720, the 990, etc. Like there's all these different tax forms. You're going to pick the tax period and the amount. Then you go in and you pick a settlement date, which is the day the funds move. So the EFTPS debits your bank account and sends payment with the correct form and period coding to the IRS. And this is really important because it's flagging exactly what it is for. So you don't get this weird, hey, I mailed in a payment, but they applied it to last year's taxes or to next year's taxes, and I thought I was paying this. You are very direct in how you're specifying it. Now, timing rules, the standard cutoff is scheduled by 8 p.m. Eastern the day before the settlement date. You could do this. Or you could schedule in advance, commonly up to a year ahead, which is great for quarterly estimates or payroll deposit calendars. If you do need to do something the same day, the EFTPS itself requires a day before cutoff, but true same-day payments are via your bank's same-day wire or FedWire same-day taxpayer payment option using a special form from your bank. Like you're going to have to go to your bank for that one. And then this is great. You have receipts and records. Make sure that you get a confirmation number. They're going to give it to you anyway. Like the EFTPS gives you, boom, here's my confirmation number. If you're paying through the EFTPS system, it keeps the payment history, which is very useful if you get audited or if you're doing loan underwriting or reconciling your payroll tax deposits. It's great to have that. Another big one is security and access. It's a website and automated phone system for both work. Multi-user access can be granted, and you can even do role controls for businesses. And the cool part about this whole system is there's no fees from the Treasury. So your bank may still charge you like a wire fee if there's a wire transfer, but not for standard EFTPS debits. There are no costs. Now, what can I pay with my EFTPS login? Well, your individuals, it could be your 1040, your extension, your balances due, your AMT, NIIT, all of the payments that you owe individually you can pay through this. For businesses, your 941, 944, payroll deposits, your 940 FUTA, your 1120, if you're a corporation, your excise tax, even penalties, everything can go through that. If you're nonprofit, then sometimes you have some payroll taxes, maybe there's some penalties. You can pay those via the portal as well. And why pros prefer it? Because it's accurate. Like we can actually specify the form and the period coding, which reduces IRS misapplied payments. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody sent in a check and it was misapplied by the IRS. Usually they're writing it in the memo, and it's so easy to screw it up because if I'm writing a check right now, I'm sitting here in 2025, but I'm paying it for 2024. What are you going to write on that check? You know what you're going to write. You're going to write 2025 1040, and now they're applying it to the next year, not to last year. Now you have penalties and interest, and they're not forgiving on it. So this will nix that one right in the bud because you are able to specify, here's the form, here's the period. The other thing that reason tax pros like this is because there's an audit-ready confirmation and history right in the system. Other big reason, scheduling. You can avoid missed deposit penalties, which is, especially if you're doing like semi-weekly 941s, payroll deposits, things like that. You can schedule this thing out, and it works seamlessly alongside direct pay for individuals who don't want to enroll and same-day wires for emergencies. So here's a few tips. If you're going to use this system, build your year. The quarter whenever quarter starts, you might schedule your different payments. You might load your 941 deposit calendar, all those things, and then delegate safely. Make sure that you have somebody else who's looking, your bookkeeper, your CPA is a limited user, and keep all the approval rights. Where do you keep it? With you. Name your payments clearly, use that memo description field so you can audit deposits super fast, and then make sure that you are matching the bank info. That EIN, Social Security, and names must match or you're going to have rejections. Keep those confirmations, save a PDF, print screen if you have to for each payment, drop them in your year-end tax folder. It's super easy. That's the EFTPS system. But let's go back to the recent changes. I covered the first two of the three tips, right? Adding your banking info to your tax docs and setting up electronic payment methods. But what about people who are not techno-savvy? Well, this is step 3. Help your family members who may struggle with the switch. Talk to your parents, your grandparents, or anyone you know who gets paper checks and say, hey, there's other options. Options include opening a low or no fee account at a bank or credit union, or where appropriate, using Treasury-approved prepaid solutions. Beware of scams during the transition. When in doubt, go directly to irs.gov or go to your tax pro and say, hey, this is what I'm getting, is this true? Because you know that there's vulnerable communities and they are going to get nailed by this, as all the scamsters and the fraudsters out there are going to be out there trying to scare them into doing something, giving over their information. So if you have somebody who's elderly or who does the paper check thing, check in on them if they're going to have an issue. Now here's some key frequently asked questions to help you navigate this change. Question: will there still be paper checks in some cases? Yeah, there are going to be limited exceptions for significant hardships and where the law requires it. The IRS says more guidance will be released before the 2026 filing season, so we'll know more at a future date. Does this affect state refunds? No, because the states set their own rules. Many have already encouraged direct deposit, but you check your state's guidance, and that is a pun. Check your state's guidance about whether they accept a check. What about paying the IRS? So, well, the executive order also pushes incoming payments like your tax bill towards electronic systems, and the term they actually use, as soon as practical. So begin transitioning now, set up the EFTPS or use direct pay. And then for you conspiracy theorists out there, what about the central bank digital currency? You know, is that what this is about? No. The executive order specifically frames this as a digitizing payments for efficiency and fraud reduction. This is not a central bank policy. So what is the bottom line? It comes down to this: paper refund checks are going away for most individual taxpayers beginning after September 30th, 2025. For many of you, nothing changes. You already use direct deposit. If you don't, now's the time to set up a bank or credit union account, confirm your routing and account number, and switch your payments and refunds to electronic methods to avoid delays. If you're super concerned, set up a specific account just for this. My expectation is that it's going to take a heck of a long time after this is in place to be the exception. If you want help transitioning, especially for seniors, small business owners, or anyone else, the unbanked, you can go in and go into the comment line down there below and just type in consult. And you can use a link. We'll send you a link so that you can meet with somebody on my team. Make sure that you're pointed in the right direction. Thanks for watching this. If you know somebody that could benefit from this, please share it, like and subscribe. I'm Toby Mathis, and I'll see you next time.